I must say you're a gloomy-looking bunch. Why so glum?
Our parents just died.
Oh, yes, of course. How very, very awful.
Wait. Let me do that one more time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? A title fight is brewing. That's right, this season, Eddie Murphy versus Jim Carrey. I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill, and joining me on the line is a reasonably attractive orphan, Joe Vekeman.
Thank you.
And on the audio boards is Lev Van Rensselaer, reminding me to remind you that you can email the cast at whathappenedtothemcast@gmail.com. And our sponsor this week is, well, you know her from her incredible TV show, Shonda Rhimes. Well, she's now entered the world of books. Our sponsor this week is Shonda's Rhymes, her new line of nursery tales. Her first book focuses on the human anatomy. All right, Joe, what movie are we doing this week?
This week we watched, let me get the full title here. We watched Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events from 2004.
A Series of Unfortunate Events also was the title of our Season 2 following The Rock. Joining us this week is a returning guest, fellow audio maven, Andrew Mcune.
Hey guys, I was not laughing at your joke just because you hadn't introduced me. Otherwise, I would have laughed at the joke because I wanted to contextualize the laughing in the background.
That's okay. That's all right. No worries. Andrew, you, I guess, Joe, give us the plot synopsis first, and then I'll talk to Andrew.
When a massive fire kills their parents, 3 children are delivered to the custody of cousin and stage actor Count Olaf, who is secretly plotting to steal their parents' vast fortune.
All right, so Andrew, why did you choose to be on this episode? What was it about this movie or this actor that drew you to it?
Okay, I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture for you, Patrick, Joe, and Lev, okay? Let me set some scenes. Let me paint an audio picture for you. So, I am a student of this series. I was born and molded by this series like Bane. I read every mainline book in the series. This is an adaptation of a book series. It's a series of children's novels that was released from 1999 to 2006. There's a series of 13 books, and I read all 13 of them. I read the first 9 books at the age of 7 or 8, and then I continued to follow the series until it finished. So I was about 11 when it ended. That is The Authority, from which I speak. I still remember them vividly. The books, they were like these. Okay, so the books started out at maybe 150 pages each, 14-point font, decal-age pages. They would get longer and more mature in length as well as theme as they went. And they had this very structured, designed cover on the front of the book, and it would show an image of an event in the book through this like Edwardian window, and the borders and the binding, they looked great. It was this book about children, and they just could not have it worse. These children would get hit with trauma after trauma, and it hit at the perfect age and time for me, right? I was an absolute, I was a flop in school. My brothers, you have to understand. I was an absolute outcast. I was way younger than the other children. I was treated as such. I got picked on, yelled at, punched, food thrown at me. I would lose at chess. I would chase into the bathroom, like really classic bullying, like 90s movie bullying. Not that weird, like, psychological stuff. It's psychological when it's physical is what I learned. But yeah. I had trust issues with adults. I wasn't good at standing up for myself. I was small. I was really spindly, like the wacky waving inflatable flailing tube man out in front of a car dealership. I was a baby with bad eyesight and thick glasses. I had a bad time, right? Okay, painted this picture. So that's fine. This is comedic. This is for humor, right? Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm good. I'm grown. But I would go home after school, after all of this stuff, and I would sit in the corner of the house, and I would read multiple books a day. Right, this is the escape. And this series of books would fill my little brain. A Series of Unfortunate Events is at its core a series written for children about a group of children who were always in a bad situation and they have to logic their way out of it on their own because they're surrounded by adults who are addicted to either psychopathy or bureaucracy. And either way, could not give these kids the time of day. The books are sarcastic, they're dark, they're beyond on the nose. They're obsessed with referencing other points of classic literature, so that gives you things to look forward to and to dig for as a kid who's into books. And the comedy in the black comedy of the books is derived simply by the reader being gish-galloped by an insane amount of unfortunate events. The children are buffeted by everyone and everything, sometimes violently, and they have to survive solely just by their wits, talents, and strengths. And most importantly, Patrick, Joe, and Lev, the middle child in the book, Klaus, the abused 12-year-old bookworm with messy dark hair and bad eyesight, he has glasses! He has glasses in the book! Where are his glasses? I don't know where his glasses went.
He would have been unreasonably attractive at that point. See, you had to make it reasonable.
This is the first movie that I watched as a child. I was 9 when it came out that I realized I don't know if I always like adaptations of books that I read.
Yeah.
His glasses are a metaphor for something, and that is much of the things that are lost in translation from the books to this movie. So I picked it because I may have some opinions on it.
You want to tear them down.
To be fair to the movie a little bit, I was also mad when I was a kid because not only did Klaus have no glasses, which is his whole characteristic, he's dropping them, they're getting broken. Clearly they didn't want somebody who looked akin to Harry Potter, I guess, because he's pale and has glasses or something.
Absolutely. That's, yeah.
You know, it's 2005 or whatever when this movie comes out, and that's in the zeitgeist, I guess. But I was also mad as a child because I missed one line of dialogue near the end in the 9-year-old consumption of the dialogue that was hitting me. And I thought that Olaf's depicted ending was genuine and not sarcastic. So like that really happy montage of the sentencing. I thought that was legitimately the end of the movie because I missed the line of the one line that was like, just kidding. Or Jude Law told me that it wasn't true. I missed that one bit. So I walked around for about 20 years thinking that was the real ending. And turns out, no, it's still kind of sarcastic. So my bad, movie. I'll give you that one cover. But he should have had glasses. Yes. I will not back down from that.
Joe, did you ever read any of these books?
I did. I believe I read the first 3 or 4, which I think this movie's based on the first 3.
That's correct.
Yeah, I liked them. I liked them a lot. I don't know what happened. I was a lot older than you at this point, Andrew. I was about 15, so I was kind of like a little older, and I was like, I'm seeing this for Carey, and I don't know. So I wasn't super invested at that point, but I'd read the books earlier. I don't know.
I read the first one, but I read it around Andrew's age because I read it when it came out. It was in my 5th grade's reading book pile. I was snobby even back then, and I was like, a kid's book? I'll give it a shot. But mostly I was like, nah, give me my Jules Verne's and it sounds like Andrew. He was also reading some classical literature back then. So that's what I was doing. But I did read that book. I remember the cover having the gargoyle Count Olaf and that Harry Potter looking kid that doesn't look like Harry Potter now in this movie. So I can understand why they maybe changed it. Yeah, but the girl looks like she just came out of Hot Topic. So they somewhat kept it legit.
So there's so much to get into with this development.
Well, let's talk. Andrew is clearly the most versed in this. It felt a little jarring to me. I don't remember much from the book, except that this movie apparently split it in half and put the other books in between them into a sandwich.
Yes.
It did feel a little jarring. It seemed like we were jumping around quite a bit. And I was like, I thought there was more to that first book than 30 minutes worth.
Yeah.
Was this an effective way to do an adaptation, did you feel? Would you have wanted them to try to stretch out each book? If they're only 150 pages, that might have been hard.
It's true. I do think that, so Nickelodeon Pictures, the bumper that you see at the beginning of this movie that makes you go, oh no. that division of Paramount Pictures was very desperate to get a sort of Harry Potter style fantasy or I don't know, pseudo gothic or like some sort of like children's book adaptation to the screen. But as you can see later also from the Spiderwick Chronicles, Nickelodeon Pictures is addicted to adapting 3 books into one movie and then not adapting any more books. So I don't know what they're doing there. I do think that it feels rushed. It feels compressed. And the ending of the movie is the ending of the first book, but they chopped that part off the first book's events and then put it after the third book. And I ultimately don't think that works. The only reason that maybe you go along with it is because so much of the detail is skipped. I mean, I know they're 150-page books, but so much of the detail is just like scrunched together for each act. It's very clearly, I mean, I guess it's 4 acts. It's for a 2-hour movie, but the tone just kind of doesn't really hold up throughout because they really run through those. They sprint through them as much as they can. Maybe they're worried that the kids are going to age too quickly because
that's a good point to talk about.
in the 13 books, I think they age 2 years in total, as opposed to Harry Potter, where it's sort of like built in and they age a year per movie. So maybe they were anticipating we're just going to be in the sound stages for 2 straight years. We're going to get them all done. And maybe less feasible, but it doesn't work very well for me either.
They must have had to change other things too, because they seem to call out the hand signing thing. In the first book, she signs with the wrong hand, and that's how they get out of it. But in this one, Jim's like, I've read the books, you can't do that. And then the kid has to use the laser beam thing, which I don't remember from the first book.
I forget that we don't necessarily like address the events in like linear order, so I was like holding on to this. But yes, that's absolutely true. And that like also annoyed 9-year-old me. I was like, that's not how he gets got. So in the book, yes, Violet gets away with... Okay, so... Oh my gosh. So there's child marriage in this movie.
Uh-oh.
Classic.
There's... Count Olaf tries to marry a 14-year-old, and it's a PG-rated movie. It's cool. It was 2004 or 5. It was fine.
It was Bush's America. It was a different time. 9/11 had happened.
Like, it was enabled in the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act told us that we could
marry our child brides.
So Count Olaf is a villain who is trying to take the inherited fortune from this group of poor but rich orphans, and he does so by first becoming their adopted guardian, and then after he is caught trying to murder them once to 3 times, they keep getting shuttled around to other very distant relatives, and he keeps trying to scheme and get his way in there and take their money. And at the end, he decides, well, maybe if I just marry the oldest daughter, who is 14, then I'll have the fortune. And the books do, as good of a job of treating it as like, this is a bad situation. It gets a little bit weird when it's like a rubber sort of like bouncing around mask Jim Carrey, who's like joking about marrying a 14-year-old. But in the books, it is eradicated or it is null and void because she writes it with her left hand instead of, as the law states, quote, with her own hand, which I guess means right hand. I don't know. But then in this one, you have to climb a clock tower and shine the sunlight, but you have to do it twice because the first time you were too slow and you didn't do anything with it when the sunlight bounced off of 5 different lenses. You have to do it a second time. Also in the books, Violet is the one that climbs the tower and like saves the day. But they gave it to Klaus instead, because those are technically 2 different events. They just kind of mashed together. So yeah, that's not very clean either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was surprised, having only read 1 book, I thought, Count Olaf is done at the end of that book. Now it's a new thing. I didn't know he was going to keep coming back. So I was like, oh, we're done with Jim pretty quick. All right, that's weird. Who are they going to... Oh, now we're with the dad from Boondock Saints. All right, I guess we can do that for a bit. And then Jim showed up again. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, look at this.
Oh, you didn't know that he came back as... Oh.
Did not know.
Oh, that's fun.
This was not a Simon Birch situation.
Yes.
Where we get a little bit of him at the beginning.
No, Jim actually wanted to be in this movie, it seems.
Just want to state what you both were talking about. During production, Liam Aiken grew 4.5 inches, requiring adjustments to his costume throughout. By the end of the movie, he is visually taller than Emily Browning, who portrayed his older sister. It is so obvious. I'm going to tell you how I watched this movie, because I kept falling asleep during it. I watched this movie like 7 times, and I had to kept like moving it back and pushing it back. All right, rewinding. But I definitely got out of order, and I'm like, why Why is this little boy so tall? It's really messing me up.
I didn't notice it. It got away with it for me.
I was too busy looking at his knot glasses. Yeah. I believe
How
you, Joe.
can you see? How does this boy
the first
see?
shot of the movie, they're like she's a little shorter than her, and then in the last shot of the movie, he is visibly like 3 inches taller than her.
Yeah, but for future movies, you wouldn't have to worry about it. It did seem like they were setting up movies, because I feel like that Catherine O'Hara character should have been bigger, right?
Which character?
The Catherine O'Hara, does she like come back more? At least in the first book, I remember her being a bigger thing.
Yeah, well, she does get more airtime in the first book. There's also Mr. Poe has a wife and 2 kids in the first book. Like, that's all skipped. They don't have time for that. But Justice Strauss, Catherine O'Hara, she's the sort of respite that the kids keep trying to run to, but she's like busy with work, and so Count Olaf keeps physically abusing the kids because she's not around. So she doesn't have much play after these books. I think she shows up again toward the end of the series.
It felt like a bigger name to get for a role that was barely in there. And the same with Dustin Hoffman popping up and somehow keeping himself out of the credits. It seemed like they were setting something up for a future movie, or else why did he come?
I don't think he's a character. I don't think he's anybody.
Why is he there?
I think he was just like, hey,
he was
guys, I'm here.
just around.
It seems that the little girl, they also have the last name Hoffman. Did he just like want to hang out with his granddaughters or something?
I don't think that's...
I am ashamed to admit I didn't look that up. I don't... But he's not... There's nobody in that audience in the book that is, like, worthy of note. There are, a lot of characters in this movie that don't really get any development, that are supposed to get development later in the series, like Count Olaf's, his crew, his henchmen.
No, I'm glad you bring that up, because all those actors are not bit part actors, right?
You don't think that Craig Ferguson should have played the non-gender specific character, which that is the name of that character, by the way. It's character of unknown gender is the name of that character, both in the book and the movie, and it's played by Craig Ferguson, I don't know how camp of a choice that was.
Yeah, I clocked him pretty early on, and then he got not a single line in the movie, and I was like, you motherfuckers.
I think that's funny. I think that's like, yeah, he didn't have time. He was too busy hanging out with, is it Seabiscuit? Is that the name of the horse on his show?
Seabiscuit.
Or what's the name?
Show?
Yeah, on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson.
Yeah. No, Secretariat.
Sorry, the other
that show
horse.
wasn't on yet.
Oh, well, he was pitching.
He was in between. He was in between the Drew Carey show and his late night talk show. But that brings us to a good point. We're going to cut to we have a segment we do occasionally, Andrew, where the Drew Carey show has been put onto streaming on Plex.
Okay.
But the reason why the show hadn't been put on DVD or on streaming anytime sooner was because the show has massive, massive musical rights issues.
Yeah. I'm a casual peruser of the show. I understand.
So I've been watching it on Plex to support the release and giving every episode 5 stars as I go past it. I have noticed all the changes the show has had to make to allow for these episodes to stream. So we do musical licensing issues with Drew Carey every now and then as I come across them. So you can kind of join us as a musical expert yourself.
I'm here. Let's do it.
Moon over Parma, bring my love to me tonight. Guide her to Eastlake.
Well, they do one of the live episodes, Joe, and because they're doing a live episode, they bring in Colin Mockery of Whose Line Is It Anyway fame, and he does a little karaoke song because he's secretly in love with Drew, and it's something like "You Are the Apple of My Eye" or something he sings. Well, they can't do that, so they just cut it out completely. We see him get up to the karaoke machine, and then we awkwardly cut, and now he is finished singing. The end.
It's such a bummer.
That also seems more in character with the Colin Mockery I remember from the Drew Carey show, which is when he was playing that bit part where he doesn't talk and he just keeps getting promoted because he doesn't say anything.
It's the same character, and this is the second time they brought him back, but now he is in love with Drew. Now we find out that he is of that persuasion.
So I would argue maybe this is like character continuity that they're fixing.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And, all right, so after that, Kate falls in love with Drew in season 5, and she tells Lewis, but she doesn't tell anyone else. But Drew knows he has a secret, so he tries to get him drunk. And so they're all drunk hanging out, and Lewis is about to say it. He's like, Kate loves Kate loves, and then he starts saying Kate loves rock and roll, and they start like grooving out to that. They're only speaking it, but that gets cut out too. You're not allowed to do that. Can't be done. Joe Walsh pops up on the show every now and then as their musician friend, the stoner burnout musician friend, and he performs at Mimi's wedding. He does a rock version of the usual wedding march. That they're allowed to keep. That was totally fine. But then Joe Walsh plays a little ditty at the end over the credits while they're burying a body. Long story. That they could not keep. That one was easy to pull out, though, because you just sort of put the credits over black, and it's fine.
This episode was maybe 16 minutes, is what you're saying.
No, the shortest episode was the one where they had to cut out the King of Poland storyline because that offended Polish people when it first aired. Dan Castellaneta comes. Oh. He's the voice of Homer. He comes to find Mimi because Mimi's aunt has died, and that means that Mimi is now the Duchess of Krakow. The famous royal family of Poland fled during the war, and they fled apparently to central Ohio, and so now all the Polish royalty are there. So Dan Castellaneta, the King of Poland, who currently works as like a busboy at a restaurant or something, he finds Mimi, and they're like, together, Mimi, we can go and reclaim our palace in Poland. Well, I guess some Polish people complained after that aired. They didn't like it. So that one got cut. So that episode, they not only was it super short, they had to like take an opening from a previous episode and just add it again to pad out that running time some more to get it to like 18 minutes.
It sounds like they're canceling greatness.
Yes,
they're censoring art, if you ask me.
Well, in my digital versions, I still have that storyline and didn't realize it had ever been canceled. But yes, okay. So then there's Lewis has crashed Oswald's car. And they have to win a new one at one of these crazy used car salesmen, and they're doing a contest where they have to hang out in a convertible car as long as they can in sub-zero temperatures. They are having this contest to win the car. Well, also, Drew has gotten an assistant, and Kate has made him hire her, but they are dating currently. That storyline has moved on. They're dating, and he's trying to, like, apologize for having to fire her because she was really bad at her job. And he sings that song that's like, that like low-key lady. He sings that song to like woo her back, to win her back. He can't sing that now. So we awkwardly cut around that. That was a weird conversation to have. They had to like put audio over other shots that didn't relate to it so that they could keep it flowing. All right. Mimi gets fired at a certain point. Later she gets rehired back because they find out she has claustrophobia and that's a medical condition. But she gets fired, and when she's fired, Drew brings out a boombox and he plays Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. And then he somersaults around the office, clearly a stunt double. And
thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, we know you could have done it, Drew. It's
fine. They kept it. They just changed the audio to like some generic circusy sounding music. Wasn't as fun.
They changed the audio to like a wrecking ball ruining like an entire block full of buildings. There's option. There's potential for added comedy 20 years later for like this audio designer to just like be the rudest person. Shout out to you for your restraint.
They seem to have been told to just do it as quickly as possible. Get this out. We gotta go.
That's how genius is displayed, sure.
Drew is trying to have sex with Kate for the first time. They're trying to make the magic happen. He's trying to pretend that he's spontaneous. He comes up with a plan for them to leave. They're gonna make an excuse to leave. They're gonna take the dog with them, and then they're gonna turn off the lights to make it look like the power's out. So it'll have to be a romantic evening. And they make a song for it to remember it. Unfortunately, that song is to the tune of the Spider-Man theme. Leave dog lights, leave dog lights. And they weren't allowed to use that, so that had to get cut out.
God.
Which wasn't the end of the world. They were like, oh, we changed the song to the Spider-Man theme, and then they just, like, don't sing it. Which is a little unfortunate, but they cut around it okay. Then they also, as they're leaving for real, they, like, sing a romance, like a Barry White song to them. They have to just cut that out. And then there's an episode where Kate, still dating Drew, she thinks that Drew's dog doesn't like her, and it turns out that they're both vying for control over him, and that's why. But anyway, he does something mean to her whenever he's not around, so then he's like, I've heard this scenario before. And then he does a bit with the dog, makes the dog sing and dance like that frog did in the Warner Brothers cartoon. Hello, my baby, hello. Can't do that. Can't sing that song. Not allowed. So most of the issues in this week's episodes that we're going through have not been music rights issues themselves, but really just sort of the rights to the words of the music. You weren't allowed to use the words. There you go, Andrew. See? Musical licensing, super fun.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's not super fun. I'm going to tell you that people were probably very, very upset at learning that they had to change all of those gags. It sounds like half the gags in those episodes. So that's work.
Yeah, season 4 and 5 in particular have had a great deal of many musical interference. They just kind of really went for it in these prime seasons, I guess.
I don't even remember what studio it was, because it sounds like you just mentioned things from like literally every studio or literally every TV station that all had to get cut out. So is Plex just truly studio agnostic? Well, who knows?
Well, it was actually the producers themselves of whoever originally made the show had to come together and find ways to make some money off of this. Yeah, who does make this?
Whose line is it anyway? Nobody's. That's
yes. I don't quite remember, but in an interview they gave recently, they were like, yeah, ABC just gave us a particular separate fund from the rest of the budget, and that was our music budget to do whatever funny things we wanted to. They weren't prepared, though, for the world of DVDs and streaming. It's very sad.
That era of budgeting is over.
Yes. And you can buy the show now on DVD, but it is this Plex version of it, so it takes some of the fun away. Back to the movie, Cedric the Entertainer. We haven't seen him since Larry Crown on the podcast, Joe.
I have a note here, and it just says, Cedric the Child Marriage Defender.
Yeah, Cedric the Entertainer, who feels the only person that's not in this movie with everybody else. He is not acting or talking like he's in a weird gothic alt-universe thing.
More out of place than Dustin Hoffman, who is there not playing a real character and doesn't say anything.
Dustin Hoffman wandered on set and they're like, just please put this costume on and sit down.
Sadly, it's also the same thing that happened to him on the set of Megalopolis.
What happened to me in the theater in Megalopolis.
Cedric and Dustin, they're reuniting from their racing stripe days. They have a little conversation during that wedding. Yeah, but you make up a good point, Andrew. During the wedding, he's like, what can I arrest him for? And then immediately the document gets burned, and everybody's like, all right, we're going to arrest you now. And I go, what's changed? I don't understand what changed.
Yeah, there's a real ACAB sort of like vibe floating throughout the entire movie. Police not even showing up to the crime scene when the house gets burned down. Like the kids like show up to their burned out house. There's not even like caution tape. People are just like walking around in there. Just like, yeah, no big deal. Cops are kind of just whatever city this in and whatever year this is in. The cops are clearly very busy and do not have time for you. It does fit with the theme of like adults don't have time for these kids' issues, even when those kids' issues involve child marriage and being attacked by snakes.
Yeah, Jim Carrey kind of comes out and just says that at the end of the film. Did that happen in the book? Because that felt a little blatant to me.
In the end of the first book, I do think that he tries to hold on to the ruse a little bit harder, but you cut for time in a movie. What can you do?
Yeah.
You know? Stretch it another minute? I don't think so.
All right. So in that, we talked about Craig Ferguson in that coterie of Jims. We also had Greendale Community College alum Luis Guzman.
It's true.
Of course.
He gets a lot of dialogue too, doesn't he?
But he gets like physical comedy bits, so there was something.
Yeah, he's pulling the rope behind the stage.
Yes.
A gag they've been doing since 1892.
And Emerson College alum Jennifer Coolidge.
Ah, yes.
She doesn't say anything until like minute 90.
Yeah, it's pretty far in there. And I didn't know, I was surprised Jim and Jane Addams reunited so quickly.
What was she in? Oh, with the Eternal Sunshine. I was like, what?
It's like the immediate following year.
They have one scene together in that movie?
Jane Lynch is also a realtor.
I did not clock Jane Lynch.
She was the real... You just weren't watching this movie. You didn't clock Jane Lynch. You didn't clock Gilbert Gottfried as the Affleck Duck.
Which I did.
Wait, what?
Truly...
What are you talking about, the Affleck Duck? What?
Yes, the Affleck Duck. It's that something falls from the top of the ceiling or whatever, and of the big house over the cliff, precariously perched over the cliff, and the Affleck Duck's there. And he goes, Affleck.
Hurricane Herman over Lake Lacrimose is sponsored by Affleck. Yeah, that's the takeaway from this movie. It is Gilbert Gottfried also. I had to check that because I saw that duck and I was like, ain't no way, bro. And I looked at it. Yeah, No.
It sounded like him.
The duck that nearly gets a stove dropped onto it is well known to American audiences as the Affleck duck.
Yes.
Yes.
This duck is in this Diet Tim Burton movie. Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get there.
Sorry. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Eventually I'll get there. This movie was shot by Emmanuel Lubezki.
Yes, I did like a lot of the camera work and the production design and the costuming. Like I saw the Nickelodeon logo too, and I'm like, oh, are we getting Snow Day or Max Keebler's Big Move or Big Fat Liar? What are we getting here?
He made choices.
Yeah, that just seemed like the director and the production designer and the camera person. They all tried. They're like, oh, what if we really live into this?
He decided on Count Olaf's house, uses green, blacks, and grays. And the Uncle Monty's house, they use green, browns, and yellows. And Aunt Josephine's house, they use blue and black. And
even in some of the backgrounds in the prologue, I just noticed them. The scenes would be in color, but they specifically chose to desaturate a lot of the surrounding area outside of the kids. I just thought like, oh, effort is being put into this at least. We don't always see that in these movies.
Mm-hmm. I also want to put on this that there's 2 weeks before the ending of the shoot, director of photography, Emmanuel Lubezki, had to leave due to work commitments for The New World.
Did this one just run over?
Well, he was...
How did that happen?
Scheduled to run that one. Yeah, this one definitely ran over because they had so many fucking production issues.
Oh, really? Go into those, Joe.
Well, he was the kid was getting taller for one.
Yeah.
The kid was getting taller. That was like why production was like taking so long. They're like, what do we do? Got to redo all the costumes. The baby. First of all, they had triplets for the baby, and then whenever they got on set, Jim Carrey was scared the shit out of all the babies in this costume and makeup.
Yeah.
So they had to get new babies. So they got 2 twins, and then they were like, because the director originally wanted to do CGI babies, and then he got talked out of it. Thank God.
Yeah.
Whoa, not entirely.
Yeah, though they use like a couple of like shortcuts with when the baby's like chomping on the table or something like that. Yes. Where else? So the makeup took 3 hours for Jim Carrey every day.
Oh, that's nothing though. What at that point?
It isn't. That is true.
He dealt with the Grinch. He can do this. 3 hours is a breeze.
This is his second movie where it won an Oscar for Best Makeup.
For a man who hates putting makeup on.
I know. It's so funny.
Good for him.
And to speak to your diet, Tim Burton, well, Tim Burton was the original director.
Wait, really?
For this movie. Yeah, he was attached to it for a little bit of time, and then he decided not to do it. And then he suggested Brad Silberling to direct this, and so that's why he came on. But initially, before, like, there was other directors that were trying to get their hats in there, and I just need to find you.
I've got a couple. I was waiting for you to bring this up, but I'll go for it.
Do you want to say them?
I've got a couple. I had no idea that Tim Burton was actually like. We can talk about like who, like the rest of the crew that he usually has on his films that are on this one. But I've got Terry Gilliam. Was an early candidate for directing the film. Roman Polanski.
Baby.
Your favorite person, Patrick.
Talk about some child marriages.
Oh, yeah, that scene becomes the whole movie.
He was like, wow, this is so relatable.
I cannot imagine the discourse we'd be having about this movie in the zeitgeist if Roman Polanski had directed this movie.
Is Woody Allen next? Was he one of the options?
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead, Joe. I'm stealing your thunder.
Oh, no.
I've got Guy
Madden. Yeah,
that was the author's choice. What a choice.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild. And also Barry Sonnenfeld was actually hired to direct before Silberling, but he, I think, got left.
Well, he was hired by Scott Rudin, everyone's favorite producer. And then they both dropped out after, like, funding issues, I think.
Yeah. And then, Brad Silberling signed on to direct in February of 2003.
I think Jim Carrey was cast while Sonnenfeld was director, and then he dropped out, and Jim Carrey stayed on with approval privilege for director. So they picked Brad Silberling. But I think that was like a, yeah, sure, whoever, because I don't know how much of a relationship the two of them had before that or anything. If you watch this movie and you feel like I'm seeing some Burton elements in here. It's not just because he was apparently, thank you for telling me, Joe, that he was almost a director, but Rick Heinrichs is the production designer for this film, and he's worked on literally 19 Burton films. He worked on Batman Returns, but not Batman 1989. Oh. But he worked on like Edward Scissorhands. He worked on I think Beetlejuice. Like he was there in the 80s. He'd made the original Frankenweenie short. And then Colleen Atwood, the costume designer, has worked on like 13 Burton films. So in terms of behind this, or like the crew and departments, those ones have very heavy. That was purposeful on the part of the movie creator. I will note that this movie maybe doesn't hit the true childhood angst or like any edge that a Tim Burton movie might hit. This was softened after test screenings to become more family friendly. So yeah, you can tell. Yes,
I was wondering that because it felt both kid friendly, but also still kind of a little darkish for children. How did the movie do, Joe? It felt like it was in a weird spot where it satisfied nobody. And also, apparently, they didn't make any more.
Budgeted at $140 million, made about 211.
Oh, okay.
So
I feel like they could have kept going if they wanted to.
Yeah, and Jim Carrey wanted to make more. He signed on for more. He wanted to do it. He was.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't keep I didn't mind this movie too much for a children's movie. Usually, I kind of get annoyed by them, but this one I've been like, if I have kids, I wouldn't mind them watching this. At least this looks interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I would have wanted to see some more, see how it turned out.
I don't think it broke even after marketing, though. I don't.
Marketing wasn't as expensive back then, though. So
marketing was controversial for this film, though. They released it in December, and they did a lot of like this holiday, have a terrible Christmas, or like stuff like that. It was like
with the girl with the dragon tattoo route.
Yeah, exactly. But for children, and it was apparently a little controversial back then. People were complaining about it on certain news networks as being anti-holiday, anti-Christmas. And
my Lord.
Back then, I think that might have been in the unsweet spot of that actually not doing that much good for a movie. It wasn't like bad news is good news kind of a thing. I don't know if that is...
Yeah, people were watching movies less ironically back then.
Unfortunately, yeah. I think that might have done something. It wasn't the main culprit, but I don't know if that helped this movie much.
Yeah.
I just want to read this snarky review.
From our guy, Roger Ebert?
No.
Nah.
This is from Ty Burr of the Boston Globe.
I'm listening.
Director Brad Silberling has essentially made a Tim Burton movie without the weird shafts of adolescent pain. At the same time, Silberling's not a hack like Chris Columbus, and Snicket has more zip and inspired filmcraft than the first two Harry Potter films. Look at the little jabs. The film's no masterpiece, but at least you're in the hands of people who know what they're doing. The movie, like the books, flatters children's innate sense that the world is not a perfect place and that anyone who insists otherwise is trying to sell you something. How you deal with the cognitive dissonance of a $125 million Hollywood picture telling you this is up to you. At least there are no Lemony Snicket Happy Meals. Yet.
I won't fault Silberling for the lack of the angst, because that seems like a script problem. Like I don't know where you would you don't have time for it.
No, you don't.
That's the problem with rushing it. You don't get to have more of those moments. I bet he would have done fine if that was written down somewhere.
So much of it is also the casting of Jim Carrey as Count Olaf. I mean, I think Jim Carrey isn't bad in this. I think he's good. He does what he does, but it's a different characterization than the books, really entirely.
I found Roger's review.
All right, give it to us.
Roger, Roger, Roger. Roger, 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 Roger. R-O-G-E-R. R-O-G-E-R.
Jim Carrey is over the top as Count Olaf, but I suppose a character named Count Olaf is over the top by definition. I like the film, but I'll tell you what, I think this one is a tune-up for the series, a trial run in which they figure out what works and what needs to be tweaked. Nice. The original Spider-Man was a disappointment, but the same team came back and made Spider-Man 2, the best superhero movie ever made. Rude to Spider-Man 1, which I like.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man 1's probably better than this movie in most respects. I'm sorry. Another character who cannot catch a break no matter what happens. The writers of the story just hate that main character. Similar to this. I hear that review. You got more, Joe?
No, that's it. That's all.
I like Jim in this. I don't know how it compares to the book because I don't remember any of that. They just were like, all right, Jim, go with it. And he was like in it and he's pretending to be a dinosaur and he's doing all these funky voices and I was buying it. How did you feel, Joe, compared to other Jims we've been doing?
In my strange way of watching this movie, yes, I thought it was fine. I didn't mind it when it came out. I never had like I should rewatch that one.
Oh, you've seen this movie before?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out in the theater.
Okay.
Oh, I thought I mentioned that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what, you did. It just sort of slipped my mind.
Okay.
It was sort of lost in a sea of things you were saying that were more important at the time we were talking about them. But Andrew, you have any history with Jim Carrey before this? What has Jim meant to you in your life?
Well, Jim Carrey, I mean, prior to, I saw this movie when I was 9 years old. I don't know if I had much of a working knowledge of Jim Carrey's filmography before that. I think I may have had a tangential understanding of like what The Mask was, but I wasn't watching In Living Color as a kid. I wasn't that cultured. I was clearly reading too many books, which was my downfall. And since then, Jim Carrey I've watched a handful of the movies that you've done so far in your treatise of his career. I've got a couple more on the way. I remember watching Incredible Burt Wonderstone. You got that to look forward to.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh boy.
That's a real weird one.
Okay.
Not necessarily. I'll let you figure it out. But I didn't really have an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or a Truman Show indoctrination until college. So I just thought of him as kind of like the Riddler just popping up in everything, or the Mask popping up in everything. That was kind of how I would view him. And in this movie, it was Count Olaf is like supposed to be this directly very sinister character whose humor is solely because of how terrible he is that it's like unbelievable. And his dialogue is like really self-referential and belabored and deadpan. And Jim is like this very bouncy impressionist vaudevillian kind of character because and if you're casting Jim, that's who you get. And people who are, I think, older than me when they're watching that movie, if they're taking their kids to see it because they've seen movies that he's been in so far, he's a child and parent box office draw. So I get why you cast him. And he works, but it kind of feels like the Riddler from Batman Forever was dropped into Batman 1989 to me. Like it just does. There's two different visions, but yeah, that's my understanding of Jim. I love his dramatic work when I can see it. I look forward to when you guys get to cover the Sonic movies, those paradigms of cinema. But I have less of a relationship with Jim Carrey than most people my age, I think.
Okay. And have you seen the show? How does the show compare to this?
I haven't seen the show. That show came out, I think I was in college, and I think I just had no faith that it was going to be any good. And I still haven't seen it. It might be.
Yeah, I just can't imagine Neil Patrick Harris being as interesting as Jim Carrey in those roles.
Yeah, Jim Carrey can usually hold people's attention. I don't know why Joe fell asleep 7 times.
Yeah.
It's too bad. Neil Patrick Harris was going to leave you comatose, probably.
I put this on very late last night, and I had a child I was running around all day yesterday with.
You're very busy, Joe. I'm joking.
I guess like the Jim casting, aside from the family box office draw, makes sense because he can do all the wacky impressions and voices and costuming stuff. Like he's got that track record. Is that that's not what Neil Patrick Harris is known for. Like, how did he even come up?
I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Someone at Netflix was a huge fan of Dr. Horrible or something.
Yeah, I might guess. I'm not sure what else it could be.
Oh my god, that just sent me back. Holy shit. Yes. Oh my god.
I don't know. Did they want him to be like somewhat likable? I don't know. That seems like odd casting to me. I didn't have time to watch it. I'm like, all right, maybe I can do a little. I thought it was like one season. It turns out there's like 30 episodes, and I'm like, no. If
any of your listeners have watched that show, please email
whathappenedtothem@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the adaptation.
Let us know how completely unknowledgeable we are about the show that none of us watched.
Yeah, tell us how Doogie Howser was doing.
Yeah, my kids watched it, but I did not look at the screen for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah. In the credits, Cedric the Entertainer, he gets his own hairstylist. He was wearing a hat the whole time. What's he need a hairstylist for?
Man, that's a good gig.
Yeah,
That you show up and text all day and then leave. That's great.
And do you have anything on Dustin Hoffman in this, Joe, and why he was there, or why he didn't want to be in the credits, or if those were indeed his granddaughters?
No, and that I don't think it was his granddaughters, but yeah,
They have the name Hoffman, and he's in the movie.
I know, but it's not his granddaughter.
And he comes in like 5 seconds after we're done with Meryl Streep, like they just barely missed the Kramer v. Kramer sync-up.
Oh my, we haven't even talked about Meryl Streep.
Yeah, I know, we didn't talk. And Jude Law as Lemony Snicket.
Oh yeah, you think that's where they got the Goosebumps movies, got the idea to put the author in the movie?
No.
I mean, R.L. Stein is a pretty, he's well known too. Jude Law is too hot to be Lemony Snicket also. I'm sorry. I know you don't you don't even get to see him, but like...
you see shadows of the man.
Yeah,
and
come on.
Then you hear that cruel joke that was uttered at the Oscars that year. Oh, Jude Law's in all these movies. Leave him alone. Leave poor Jude Law alone. Helena Bonham Carter was also in this. Amy Brenneman.
Where the hell you hide Helena?
She was at the wedding at the end.
Oh, just showing up for fun?
No.
She was, I think, there were 2 people credited as Mrs. Baudelaire. And I think she's one of them. I don't know why there's 2 people credited as Mrs. Baudelaire. Maybe because production went so long. I don't know.
Huh.
That's what I remember from the credits. I was kind of confused by that double credit for one character because it's listed in 2 different spots, but they're both the same character. I think that's Helena Bonham Carter. Set
up for the future, perhaps.
She thought it was a Tim Burton film, and then she realized it wasn't, and then walked off. I don't know.
Patrick, what do you think? This is our second Liam Aiken movie.
Was he in Daddy Daycare?
No, he was in Stepmom. Do you remember the little boy?
Did Stepmom win an Oscar for Best Makeup, too?
No.
Which Oscar did Stepmom win?
I don't think it won any of them.
Oh.
But that was a Chris Columbus movie who got shots fired at in this movie. The review for this movie.
Yeah.
No, Liam Aiken, he's just a little...
I don't remember the boy in Stepmom. I remember a bit about Stepmom.
He looks exactly like, he's just taller.
Joe, what was that, like 2.5 years ago? I don't remember the boy.
It's probably like 3 years ago.
Yes, I don't remember the boy.
Yeah, he was Julia Roberts' body double.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you remember that fucking Cedric the Entertainer was in Larry Crown.
Because he's like one of the memorable things about that movie. That very forgettable movie.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about that very forgettable movie that I gave 1 star. You gave it 2 stars, you psycho!
They had him. They had Fez from that 70s show. That's maybe all I remember. Oh, Julia Roberts was really into opera, and I thought that was very attractive.
Yeah, that's why we watched that movie. Yeah. Did you forget Oscar winner Rami Malek is in that movie?
I did, yep, but I remember now that you bring it up.
What about Tom Hanks' son, Chet Hanks, as the pizza delivery boy?
Fake Colin Hanks. I think Chet Hanks was in the Phoenician Scheme for 5 seconds, and then he gets decapitated.
Chet Hanks is in the Phoenician Scheme?
The guy, the first assistant...
I think Colin Hanks is in the Phoenician Scheme.
No, the first assistant that gets blown up in the plane, that's one of the Hanks children. I forget which one. I think it's Chet.
Okay, if he says the word bomboclat, it's Chet.
No, he doesn't say anything. He's just as in the background. We just see him. I say, oh, who's that Tom Hanks looking guy? And then immediately the top half of him is blown up. And I go, oh, I guess he wasn't a Tom Hanks guy because he wasn't
Truman Hanks.
There you go.
Who is that?
Truman Hanks was in A Man Called Otto.
That makes sense.
I watched in the theater and I gave 3 stars. That is a movie where his son Truman Hanks plays the younger version of him because he's an old man in that movie. Truman Hanks has an incredible filmography. He's been in 2 Wes Anderson feature films. He's been in 2 Tom Hanks feature films, and he's been in 2 Wes Anderson short features. That's his entire filmography.
Does he just play young Tom Hanks and everything?
Looks like it.
Yeah.
looks absolutely like it. Trying to see who he plays in Asteroid City.
Just nobody. Just like in the Phoenician Scheme, just a nobody.
Asteroid City has an enormous cast. Like, holy shit.
I was in that movie.
He plays other actor / student. That's who Truman Hanks plays in Asteroid City.
There you
That's
go.
That's an awesome casting. Other.
Other.
Andrew, anything else you want to get off your chest about this movie?
Sorry if I've had too much chest getting off it.
No.
I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about the most important movie ever. But I think that, so there's also, I mean, I would have loved to see, maybe I should watch the show just to see if book 4 gets adapted, because this movie stops right before the series gets insane. The book for The Miserable Mill being about the abject horrors of child labor in lumber yards, worker abuse in company towns, being trapped in indentured servitude, corporal punishment, 1 meal a day. That stuff would have been awesome. But unfortunately, we know that Paramount was never going to give all the children in the theaters the idea to unionize. So it's too bad we didn't get that. I think I've covered most of the rest of the stuff that I wanted to. It's a movie, isn't it? It's
Sure is.
All right, Joe, you got last looks on this film?
I'm glad Jim Carrey got another Oscar for one of his movies for makeup and hair, which, you know, we all know he hates doing. I'm glad that I don't know. I liked him doing the multiple characters thing. He's good at that. We like that. I think he is really just shoving that pie in Eddie's face right now, because like I said, the multiple characters. He's making box office bank over Eddie, who hasn't done anything besides Shrek movies, and no one wants to see Eddie's face anymore, apparently.
Yeah, can we do a movie where Eddie and Jim team up, but they play every character in the movie between the two of them?
I mean,
wouldn't
let's
that be
do
great?
it.
I'd watch that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Coming 3 America, but with Jim Carrey in it.
Yeah, Jim Carrey plays every American, and Arsenio Hall and Eddie can play everybody else.
That's good. I like that. Let's do it.
All right, but you didn't watch this with your kids?
No, I watched it at midnight last night, and then when I woke up, I watched it at 5 o'clock this morning, 6 o'clock this morning, 7 o'clock this morning.
Man. All right.
I did watch it in 10-minute chunks. It was good.
So they watched the show, but they didn't want to watch the movie.
No, I don't think they know the movie exists.
Okay. My last looks, why did Jim Carrey do this movie? Well, again, apparently it was a lot of fun. He got to do a lot of characters. He had to wear makeup, but I guess he's gotten used to that thanks to his CIA trainings. It all worked out for him there.
I forgot about that.
It was nice. He's been doing these serious roles, but it's nice he's still willing to kind of jump in and do these kind of goofier things and still kind of play around. They clearly let him improv quite a bit. I saw an outtake where he was licking Craig Ferguson's ear.
Oh.
Why didn't they keep that?
I know. It was in the middle of his being a dinosaur, and he would just pop up behind the couch and try to get everybody to react, but they're pretending to sleep, so he just starts licking Craig Ferguson's ear.
And Craig Ferguson is still dead silent?
Right at the end, though, he breaks, and then they yell cut, and he's just like, why did you do that? And Jim's already walked away to the next scene.
Do my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie was missing its intimacy coordinator, clearly.
Yeah. So it was good. Yep, it was nice to let Jim off the leash again. They seem to do well when they let him do that. Eddie getting to do less Eddie things outside of the Shrek movies, so maybe that's part of the issues they're running into over there. Who do you think's having the better career by 2005, Andrew? Is it Eddie or is it Jim?
Oof. I mean, in terms of box office, who knows? But, I mean, you've just done you've just done Truman Show and Spotless Mind, and the 2000s for Eddie Murphy, I remember being dire.
Yes.
I think I'm in the Carey camp. Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's about to go off the rails for him, too.
We'll keep seeing how that tracks in next week's episode, but until then, we'd like to thank Andrew Mcune for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for coming by.
And we'd like to thank Lev Van Rensselaer for being the audio maven that we are craving. And we'd like to thank Shonda's Rhymes. Go find that out in a bookstore near you. And we'd like to thank Joe Vekeman.
Thank you.
And I am your host, Patrick Scale. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at QuixoticUnited.com and social media, presumably with a similar sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night.
Andrew, tell Joe about the experiment you did on your sisters. That's podcast related.
What? The experiment, So this was, I showed them a little film that Patrick took me to show once upon a yesteryear. And the film was called Southland Tales.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and I loved that movie when Patrick took me to see it at the Frida in Santa Ana. And I showed it to my sisters when I was at their house recently. And I told them, listen, you're going to have to watch this movie very intently. I know that you love to watch a movie while you're doing other things.
For context, Joe, they are younger than we are.
Yes.
Okay, you're following along.
They're in their early 20s, so still mostly formed frontal lobe, but, you know. And I told them, hey, I know that you might be playing Undertale or something while you're watching this movie, or you might be checking your email. Just, you can't do that. That's not allowed. If you don't pay attention to the screen while you're watching this movie, you will immediately lose any ability to follow what is going on. And it will be over. You won't be able to get it back. And they were like, yeah, okay, whatever. And one sister paid attention the entire time, and the other sister did not. Mm-hmm. And the second sister that did not pay attention turned to me at the end, and she was like, you were right. I don't know what was going on. And the first sister was like bewildered and absolutely did not understand it. But it was a much more intense level of confusion that was, I think, intended by the filmmaker. So that was my scientific experiment that I didn't plan that. There was no hypothesis. I knew what was going to happen.
The hypothesis is if you watch Southland Tales while not distracted, you somehow become more confused than if you had been distracted. You become aware of your own confusion in a way.
You know, Richard Kelly has sectioned him off in history from working from 2001 to 2009 and never worked again. He just worked in that decade and that decade alone. And he is so fixed in that decade because of the movies he chose. And I wish he would do something else, but I don't know if he can recapture the magic he had.
What does he do? Is he just living off royalties? What does he?
I don't know if he can recapture the money that.
Yeah.
Also...
Well, I don't even think that movie was had a high budget. I think it had a reasonably low budget.
The Rock wasn't working for Red One money at that time. He didn't need $50 million.
No, The Rock was actually is this guy going to actually be a movie star, or is he going to have to go back to wrestling?
It's better than what Vince McMahon pays. I'll take this indie.
Didn't he do both anyway?
I think he didn't want to do both.
Oh, okay.
The budget on Southland Tales is $17 million.
And then it made how much, Joe?
$374,000.
Yeah, a decent house in Kansas.
Yeah.
Oof.
Did that go to theaters?
Not back then.
Well, it clearly went to one theater because Patrick and I both saw it at one.
Yes, we did.
Maybe 20 years after the fact, but...
But Donnie Darko didn't make a lot of money either until DVD sales happened, so...
It made all of its money on dorm room posters.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko actually made a little tiny bit of money. For $4.5 million, it made $7.5 million.
You hear that, Hollywood? Just don't make your movies super expensive.
He also wrote the 2005 Domino movie starring Keira Knightley and Mickey Rourke.
They were in a movie about Domino's Pizza?
No, it's the Bounty Hunter.
Not the Game of Dominoes.
And then that's his other credit. And then he wrote and directed The Box with my girl Cameron.
I bet she's terrible in that.
That had his highest budget of $30 million, which, where is it?
Wait, that movie came after Southland Tales?
After Southland Tales, he made The Box.
They're like, all right, we'll give you $30 million. What?
That's insane. They doubled his budget, and they're like, you got more stars.
Was that a movie that he wrote, though? Was that a movie that he was just that was a...
He wrote it, but it's based on a Richard Matheson story.
The vibes from the poster, which... Truly, why did I even think that would give me anything? I thought that was more of this is a studio that needs a director. Here you do it. Kind of like what Neil Blomkamp is doing right now.
Ugh, I fucking hate that guy. Wait, they got the Arcade Fire people to work on his music in that movie? I need to rewatch that again. I've seen it 3 times and I'm like, this movie's not good, but I'll rewatch it every decade.
I think Brady has tried to recommend The Box to me after I watched Southland Tales with him, but I don't know if he did it legitimately or ironically.
Well, his other 2 movies are good. I'll give it a shot. Shout out to Brady, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll watch the Bucks for you.
Hey, most of the filming took place in Boston. Stop downtown
talking
Boston,
about this
South
movie now.
Boston,
We're not talking about the movie
Waltham,
now.
Ipswich,
Joe.
Winthrop,
Stop
Middlesex,
it. Good Lord.
Quincy.
Yes, I saw the location scouters in Boston. I was watching the credits. We're stopping the talk now. I'm going to start
Wait, you
the
watched
episode.
The Box?
Oh, I thought you were talking about this movie. Unfortunate Events also was filmed in Boston.
Really? I did not know that.
I thought that's why
I didn't know that's what we were talking about. No. The Box shot in Quincy. Why?
Yeah, very picturesque. I'm glad they did that. There were no slums you could find in the LA area.
I don't even remember what that movie's about. Have I watched it in the last 7 years? Let's see.
Maybe he was like, what if we did The Departed but with a box? What if that was his goal?
I watched this movie last year on April Fools. Do you know how much I remember? A goose egg. I don't remember a thing.
I see you fooled yourself. You're like, Joe, you thought you were getting a good movie. Sucks to be you, me.
Sucks to be you, me.
All right. Calm down. Mostly Joe. And we will start this. I'm going to have to pause. Andrew knows this. I'm going to have to pause a bit for some room tone so I can take out Joe's terrible AC in the back.
Yes.